Good morning student. Today we discuss about the pollen pistil interaction. Here in flowering plants, the pollen grain are produced in the anther. Now by which mechanism the pollen grain reach the stigma? That procedure is called pollination. In previous class we already discussed about the same. Okay, the transfer of pollen from anther to stigma is called pollination. Now during pollination, the stigma of a pistil may receive right type of pollen with the help of pollinator. Okay, now what is right type of pollen? Right type of pollen means if the pollen grain and the stigma are belong to the same type of species is called right type of pollen. Okay, it is also called compatible pollen. Okay beta, this compatible pollen able to absorb water and nutrient which is available on the surface of a stigma. Okay, because pollen first based on a stigma for fertilization. Okay, what is wrong type of pollen? Means if the pollen grain and stigma belong to different plant species, that one is called incompatible pollen. Means the wrong type of pollen is also called incompatible pollen. Okay, now pollen is of right type or a wrong type, it all depend on pistil. Pistil recognize the right type of pollen and wrong type of pollen. So pistil having the ability to recognize the pollen is right type or wrong type. Okay, the pollen is right type, pistil accept the pollen grain and promote the post fertilization image. Okay, visit result of fertilization. And if pollen is wrong type, pistil reject the pollen grain by preventing pollen germination on the stigma and by preventing pollen tube form in the style. Okay beta. Okay, the ability of pistil to recognize that pollen is right or pollen is wrong, it is wrong type, it is followed by rejection, is a result of constitution dialogue between the pollen and stigma. It is all happening in the in stigma. Okay, now it is done, pollen is right type or pollen is wrong type, it is done by stigma and done by the chemical protein. So in flowering plant, the pollination occur the compatible pollen grain. And now here we discuss about what are the changing happening during compatible and non-compatible pollen. Okay, if we discuss about the compatible pollination, by compatible pollination, pollen grain germinating on stigma in presence of water and nutrient and form pollen tube. Okay beta, and pollen tube comes out through germ pore, those type of germ pore which are present on exine. Okay, there are lots of question happening from there or raised from there, what is germ pore? Structurally two layer wall, intine and exine wall layer. So through from intine of germ pore comes out tube like structure that we call pollen tube. Okay. Later the entire product of pollen grain enter into pollen tube. So what is the component of pollen grain? Generally it have generative cell and vegetative cell. Okay, and after it pollen grain release enzyme. Which type of enzyme? Those enzyme which digest tissue of stigma and tissue of style. Later the pollen tube grow from stigma to ovary. Okay, in previous class we discussed about anatropous ovule. Okay beta, in 60% of angiospermic plant the pollen grain are released at 2 cell stage. Okay, what is 2 cell stage? 2 cell stage, that means those pollen tube which contain one vegetative cell and one generative cell is called 2 cell stage. Okay, and in 60% angiospermic plant germinate cell go one mitotic cell division and produce 2 male gamete inside the pollen tube. Okay, in remain 40% of angiospermic plant the pollen grain are released at 3 cell stage. Okay, what is 3 cell stage? Means when pollen grain having one vegetative cell and 2 male gamete from the beginning. Okay, it is all happening in 40% of angiospermic plant where 3 cell stage are over there in pollen grain. Okay, this is all about pollen pistil interaction. Okay, now we discuss how pollen tube enter in ovary to ovule. Okay, Now we discuss about how pollen tube, which is formed from stigmas to style and style to ovary, and there is more one important topic, how pollen tube enter from ovary to ovule. Okay, from the ovary the pollen tube enter into ovule by three ways. First one is porogamy, second one is chalazogamy, and third one is mesogamy. Okay beta, in porogamy, please listen carefully because it is common in angiospermic plants. Okay, porogamy, porogamy, porogamy means from the ovary pollen tube enter into ovule through micropylar end. Okay, when pollen tube enter in ovule through micropylar end, it is called porogamy. Chalazogamy, second one is chalazogamy, means from the ovary pollen tube enter into ovule through chalazo. It is called chalazogamy. Example, it is in Casuarian plants. Okay, Casuarina plant is in Casuarina plants pollen tube is enter from chalazal sites. Okay, third one is mesogamy, mesogamy means from ovary the pollen tube enter into ovule through integuments. Okay, through integuments. Okay, it is example, it is found in all cucurbitas plant. Okay, so from the ovule pollen tube enter by one of synergid from fully formed apparatus. Okay, means there is most important function of synergy, that it guide the pollen tube to release male gametes. Okay, which fertilize with egg. I hope you all understand this. Okay, this is all about pollen pistil interaction, and many of questions raised from it in board exams. I hope you all understand this. Okay, in next we discuss about artificial hybridization and double fertilization and triple fusion. These are also important topic which we discuss in next lecture. Okay, okay, if you have any query regarding pollen pistil interaction, we discuss it about in Zoom classes. Okay beta. Okay, thank you so much.